Everybody, it's Dr. Smith from Accomplished Health and Wellness and Heather Fiore from Pre-State Nutrition. And today we are talking about healthy at every size, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I know a little bit about healthy at every size, but she's going to lead the show today. So we don't have any tea today because I had an upset stomach. So we have water today. I have water.
I got nothing.
Has nothing.
That's all right.
That's okay. She's going to talk.
So we were going to start. I was thinking that we should talk a little bit about weight bias in healthcare, because it's kind of why the health at every size movement started. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was looking at this great article from in the National Institutes of Health. I'm trying to think where specifically it came from. I don't know, I forget what NHPI stands for. But anyway, a couple years ago, kind of describing, sort of the impact of weight bias and stigma and kind of what it means for patients and providers. So, I think most of us have bias, we have biases for one reason or another, right?
Yeah.
But there's bias against fat people, and I'm just gonna say fat people because I feel like obesity is a clinical term, and I think we're very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But it's not something that people use.
Right.
Like nobody describes themselves or their family as obese, unless they got that word from their doctor. That's just not a thing.
Yeah.
So
people say fat.
They say fat, and so I don't say it in a mean way or derogatory. It's just a descriptor.
It's an adjective.
It's not something that everybody uses, but I think a lot of people do. So we're just going to go with it.
Okay.
And so, a lot of times, just people in general have biases against fat people. And so providers are people too. And so they hold these biases too.
Right. We're all people.
Turns out. Even healthcare providers.
Even as healthcare providers, we're people. We have biases and we make mistakes and
yes. And so so some of the sort of the bias and the stereotype for fat people is assuming that they're not going to adhere to recommendations is one of the biases.
Sure.
One of the stereotypes or assumptions that people make. We decide that they're lazy or undisciplined or, weak-willed, that's why they're in this situation. It kind of comes down to this individual responsibility sort of approach to obesity. Like it's your fault because, you're. Yeah. And
I actually have found in my experience that they actually want to lose weight the most, and I think that a lot of people, I guess, want to lose weight. Not everybody, but lots of people want to lose weight.
A lot of people.
But I find that fat people they try all these different things. So I don't think it's a willpower thing. They just don't know the direction to go.
Yeah.
And then I think when it doesn't work, just like we talked about all those diets out there, and we were talking about, the health benefits and the health risks of them. And, even going through that, I learned a ton about all the different diets and which ones I would recommend over others. And but when it's a fad diet and everyone's doing it and it's hard because it's an elimination diet, and those are hard to stick with, right?
Yes.
For anybody.
Yes.
And especially someone who doesn't have a good relationship with food, that I think would make it even harder to stick with.
No doubt.
So they just switch it up when it's hard to stick with, or it's not working, or we just switch it up. And I think that, but the trend actually is that they keep switching it up, meaning that I think that their willpower is pretty strong. They just aren't sticking with the right diet, or the right program or whatever.
Yeah, they're just picking things that are too hard.
Yeah.
And it takes a toll when you feel like a failure, and then like over and over again you're feeling this sense of failure.
Yeah.
And then you just, you probably have this bias against yourself, like, well,
I can't do it.
I obviously
and I think also then what my next trend I see is that then at that point they want something easier. Right, which anyone would. I would.
Right.
I mean, gosh, I've been trying all these diets.
Right. That's when they come to me and they say, "Just tell me what to eat."
Right.
I'll just do
or
it.
They come to me and they say, "What about these things? What about these procedures that are out there? Like gastric bypass, the lap bands,
or the pills,
the diet pills. Oh gosh, they're so bad for you." But and then I'm like, especially with the procedures that are out there. Those, you have to learn an entire new way of eating.
Right. It's not really
the
a quick
way
fix.
of eating is not something I would want to spend the rest of my life eating that way. And so I would just rather that, like I always say, I would just rather you learn to eat. Like, let's work on that. But I can understand what you're saying over there.
Yes. So what happens with this, when you've got this sort of stigma and these stereotypes and assumptions, is that you end up treating people with less respect, right?
Sure.
Because that just is what the outcome is.
Yeah.
So the implications of these biases is that that people's healthcare quality is compromised.
I think some of that goes both ways in the healthcare. Because I can see exactly what you're saying, but then I think also they stop coming.
Well, yeah.
Why would you want to come?
Well, right. It's not just on the provider; it's on the two people. But yes, on the provider's end, quality of care is impacted because they think, that the weight is the source of all the problems, right?
Yeah.
The person comes in with like knee pain or headaches or whatever, and they're like, oh, well, if you lost weight, that would help, like they just automatically go to that. And I think,
but then that's true.
Sometimes, only sometimes though, right?
Well,
because if you have a thin person that comes in with migraines, you give them migraine medicine.
Oh yeah, but if a fat person came in with a migraine, I'd give a migraine medicine too.
But so maybe I'm not talking about you.
But if a thin person came in with back pain and a fat person came in with back pain, I definitely would see them differently.
Right.
So I can see what you're saying.
Right. So they're less likely to be.
Even I'm flawed. I'm human, people. Okay. We got that out there.
Yeah, but it's so important to recognize that, right? Like knee pain, you think, oh, it's joints and it's the extra weight and this and that, which might be true.
Which plays a part.
Which could play a part.
I mean, even when you get pregnant. I mean, think about when you get pregnant and
Of
you gain
course.
25 pounds and
Or 40, whatever.
or 100 and a lot, and it hurts.
Yes.
To carry that around.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so there's other things going on too.
And your
right?
body changes, Yeah.
Like
you can watch it in pregnancy, but you can also watch it in people when they gain weight because you have to hold that up.
Posture is
posture. So it does change things. Definitely.
It does.
But like you're saying, there's still other roots of the problem, and that might exacerbate inflammation. But you can't forget that there's other causes. That's what we're saying.
Yes, exactly. You got to look at the whole person, not just the fact that they're fat.
Right. Got it.
It's just one piece of the puzzle.
One piece.
And then providers also tend to spend less time with fat patients.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't that terrible? Because they just feel like, because again, you've got this assumption like they're not going to adhere, right? They're not going to listen, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's terrible, right?
Everyone gets the same in life.
Yeah. And then
probably too much time.
So obviously you can imagine what happens.
I talk too much.
No. No, you don't.
No.
Happy.
Everyone gets an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, until I have to be forced.
And then you have to
give
go
them less. But for now, everyone gets an hour.
Nice.
There you go.
So you can imagine that, when a patient is experiencing this bias, what do? They don't go to the doctor as much.
And they probably aren't going to follow the program, because if you don't have that relationship, why would, if you're not trusting the person you're getting the information from, why would you accept that information?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You're not going to trust them.
Yeah.
And you're feeling shamed. Right? Who needs to go to the doctor to feel shamed?
Right.
You could probably feel shamed in your house all by yourself.
Right.
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
But more than likely the case. And so you don't need the doctor for that. You don't need the doctor to point out that you're fat. Like, you probably already know that.
Yeah.
You may already be working on it. And if your doctor just comes out
and be super frustrated about it.
Or maybe maybe you actually lost weight recently. If you haven't been to the doctor in a year, like, all sorts of things could have happened in that time.
Yeah.
Weight went up and down and all sorts of things. Maybe you're
I text message my patients, right? And so especially the ones that I know are really working on their weight and stuff. So sometimes I won't catch it while they're here just because of the way my medical record is. But when after they're gone and I'm like going through all my thoughts and putting them in my notes, and then I pull up all their weights, and then I'll text them, "Rock on! You lost 10 pounds! You rule! Keep up the good work!"
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like when I have a visit for not that stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, did you know this?"
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important because you're focused on whatever the issue is at the appointment
that they're coming in for. Yeah.
Yes, but it certainly feels nice when your provider recognizes you're working hard. Yeah. So, a lot of times they just feel like they're not being taken seriously. And so, they're less likely to go and even get screenings for like breast cancer and all sorts of things, because they just don't, they just have this, negative feeling about the medical industry. Like, you're going to get, shamed, whether outwardly or, indirectly, and who needs it? And
I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
I'm my worst critic.
Is that right?
Yeah. I don't need somebody else to be critical of me.
Most of us are pretty good at that, to be honest, actually. So these are some things that can help.
Okay.
Starting in the waiting room, like, you've got to have chairs that are comfortable for all sorts of body shapes and sizes, right? Because if you only have like chairs with arms and people can't fit in them, that's awkward from the beginning.
It is.
Right? And they're probably already anxious about going, but they made themselves go, and here they are, and now they can't sit in a chair. That's terrible.
You know what's cool in my clinic? People don't wait in the waiting room very long.
Right.
Come on back.
Yes, and you don't have all this other staff that you have to worry about training, because it's not just about the providers, but all the people that they interact with. Like the tech who might like check vitals and stuff. Like, you've got to have a scale that works for that person. And you've got to have a blood pressure cuff that fits. Like, it can't be all tucked away in some office somewhere, and you're like, oh, I have to go get the, the fatty cuff or whatever. Like, it's got to be like got to be right there and normalized and everything, so people are comfortable.
Yeah.
And then, you've got to have a relationship with your patient.
Sure.
Obviously, like, you can't just jump in the first day you meet somebody and then start asking them all those personal questions about their weight, or start talking to them about their weight as if they don't know, as if they haven't lived in that body their whole life.
Right.
Like, maybe you start with like, can we talk about this? Or do you mind if I ask you some questions? And then like, so, I'm curious what you think about your weight, or I'm wondering, have you been doing anything about that? Or, I'm worried about your health. Like, just be open and not all assuming about it.
I oftentimes actually don't need to ask, because they bring it up on their own. Especially women, they bring it up and they say, what do I do about this? Or I'm really concerned about that, or I've been thinking about this, or whatever. I don't see that as much with men, but I do see that a lot with women.
Right. And it's because you have a relationship that they feel comfortable to ask you.
And I usually like go about it differently too. So when I meet somebody the first time, we just do a physical, and then I do blood work and everything, and a lot of that stuff kind of comes out with blood work. But I bet you're gonna, in Healthy at Every Size, say that, because I see it already, that you can be obese and you can have normal cholesterol. You could be skinny. You could be skinny, skinny minis, and have really terrible cholesterol.
Yeah.
You know, I think we talked about the like president or whatever of the American Heart Association died of a heart attack riding his bicycle.
Yes.
Like, you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is, right, that you can, weight is just one of many measures of health. Like your doctor is going to check your weight, but not hopefully base everything on that number. Like look at the whole person, right? Get labs and find out about family history and all this kind of stuff. Like look at, you look at a whole person and you can establish if they're, healthy or fit or not. And then,
well, sometimes your BMI, I mean, you can have one of those big buff guys and their BMI says they're overweight, and they are not.
Right.
I mean, they're muscle.
Right.
And I've seen that with women too.
Yes, it is definitely possible to be, super fit, highly muscular and have a high BMI, but you can also be fat, but still fit.
Yes.
Like we've already talked about a million times, like weight loss diets don't really work. Like, right? It's really hard to lose weight and keep it off.
Yeah.
And people would be much better off letting go of trying to even lose the weight, just focus on the behaviors, the stuff that you can control, like, have an active, healthy lifestyle, and surely your insides will be healthier.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, for sure, that's going to be a better option than cycling on and off on these crazy diets.
Yeah.
And what does that do for your mentality anyway?
Yeah. I try to have people do like a week-long food journal.
And
then when we do the week-long food journal, I look at trends. And then I try to pick one of the smaller trends. I try to do two. And I try to pick one of the smaller and then one of the bigger. Because I don't want to give them a ton of big stuff that,
because it's hard to change habits.
It is, yeah. And then I actually give them a month. And I say, okay, in a month, we're going to do another food journal. And what I find is that the easy one that I give them, that one disappears oftentimes. And they switch it up for whatever I suggest. And then the other one, that's the hard one, I never say, I'm not about eliminating stuff except for like cigarettes and drugs and that stuff that you shouldn't be doing. But I'm not about elimination diets, I mean, we've talked about that a ton. So I will suggest something else, or I'll suggest like, okay, you're having 3 sodas a day. Can we take it down to 2? And then the next month, can we take it down to 1?
Right.
And then, you gradually get them off. Soda is the hardest thing to get people off of. It's like right up there with cigarettes, I would have to say.
Right.
It is hard. I think soda company.
People like the drinks.
Oh,
So let's talk about Health at Every Size.
Okay.
So there's the Association for Size, Diversity, and Health.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's a real thing. And I just want to read the vision and mission because I think it's really cool.
Okay.
We envision a world that celebrates bodies of all shapes and sizes, in which body weight is no longer a source of discrimination, and where oppressed communities have equal access to the resources and practices that support health and well-being.
Oh, I like that.
I mean,
that's fair.
Who's not into that? That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
So their mission is to partner with service providers, educators, and advocates to dismantle weight-centered health policies and practices, ensuring that people who live with multiple forms of oppression are focus of our work.
Do we have weight-centered health policies? I'm not sure I have any policies.
you may not be the target here, but yes.
I have one. Dr. Smith, you need to show up on time.
That's a good one.
That's my policy. You need to be fully dressed. You need to not smell. And you need to be kind and listen.
There you go.
Those are my policies.
This is good.
I don't.
Okay.
But I bet I can imagine, like in a big institution, there's a
Right.
policy handbook that's a mile thick. So
Yes,
I
exactly.
bet they have a
I've seen them. Mhm.
Yeah, policy. That's not cool.
Yes. So, so the Health at Every Size movement supports
HAES. I love this. HAES.
yes,
Health
Haze.
at every size.
Mhm.
Haze.
Haze.
But we're not talking hazing here, people.
not that kind
We're
of haze.
talking health at every size.
Good kind of haze.
Right.
So Haze supports people of all sizes in addressing health directly by adopting healthy behaviors. It is an inclusive movement recognizing that our social characteristics, such as our size, race, national origin, sexuality, gender, disability status, and other attributes are assets, and acknowledges and challenges the structural and systemic forces that impinge on living well. Yeah. So it's pretty serious. So they have three components:
Okay.
respect, critical awareness, and compassionate self-care. And so there are providers that are like Haze certified or whatever.
Really?
And I was just looking into
I
that.
didn't know that existed.
And it's a thing. You could do that for a small fee if you wanted.
Oh, I'm sure it's a big, small fee.
It's actually like a sliding scale. It's kind of like whatever you're comfortable with. Here's a range.
Here's a donation.
Here's a suggested range.
Okay.
And you do have to tell them why you think this is, part of what you do and
Yeah.
how you feel. You can't just sign up. You have to
Sure.
actually make it sound like you're into this. So, so hopefully, I'm assuming if you found somebody who is Haze certified, they're motivated to do it. It's not just for no reason.
It's not just abbreviations at the end of your name.
Right. Like most of us have enough
Already.
alphabets here. They don't need
Yeah,
more
right.
stuff just
No.
so that's kind of the idea, and there's so much more to it, but I just feel like it's important to recognize that again, that weight does not define us. It is one of many measures of health, so your doctor is going to measure it.
And oftentimes we measure it every time just because it's like one of our vital signs. But I actually, going into private practice, I've kind of gotten away from that. If they're not, so every kid that comes in, I usually weigh them just because if I have to give them a medicine, they're weight based. So I have to know their weight. But,
that makes sense.
if somebody comes in for an adjustment, I don't need to weigh them.
Right.
Unless there's something else I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I will weigh them. But
Right. I mean,
a lot of people don't want, and like what my scale is here, it doesn't match what's at home. I tell that to
Right.
people all the time. It can be like
Can't get bogged down
5
with the number.
pounds different. As long as it's like the same here, you don't really worry about it.
Right. And that's usually what you're looking for is some kind of change over
trend,
time. Like
yeah.
if it's going up or it's going down, that might be cause for concern. It may not be, but anyway, it's just something.
Have you seen those I guess commercials or clips or pictures where they had this, like they showed a Victoria's Secret's picture of their women all in their scantily dressed stuff. That would never look good on you. And then they had the new Dove. The Dove models that are a little bit more full-figured models that look like normal people, right?
Yeah,
And then what they did was they showed the same exact Victoria's Secret picture again after that. It was like this scroll thing.
Yeah.
And so the first time that the Victoria's Secret picture came up, I was like, yeah, wow, look at those boobs. Yeah. Boobs, and they have long legs. Huh. And then I saw the full figured women and I was like, yeah, probably fit in that picture a little bit better. Yeah. And then I went back to the, I scrolled down again and it's the same picture and I was like, oh wow, they look sick. We should get them some food. And it's the same picture.
Wow.
But it was different
Right.
perspective
'Cause
after you saw
you
the
like-
normal person,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so then I was like, okay, well, number one, I don't feel bad that that Victoria's Secrets and those women and I don't look the same. That was good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Gen 1, Victoria's Secret 0. And then I was like, I think I'm going to buy more Dove soap.
Yes. Really love what they're doing.
Yeah.
Really trying
Because,
to-
it really did make even just me feel better about myself.
Right. I mean, we need to
We need to
see
see
a
normal.
diversity of people in
Yeah.
marketing and advertising. I mean, for one thing, like, if you don't look like one of those Victoria's Secret people, how are you going to go into the store and expect to even buy their stuff? Like,
Right.
have they
I
got your
usually
size?
don't.
What's it going to look
Have you
like?
ever gone to Victoria's Secret?
Oh yeah, when I was younger.
I think
Yeah,
it's
they're
interesting. They throw these bras at you, right? And they're like, "Let me measure you, and then we'll put you in the stall, and I'll just keep bringing you bras." And they're like throwing them over, And I'm like, "Wow, I just had a baby. I just want a bra that fits me."
That's not the place you go after you have a baby.
Yeah, but they have unusual sizes there,
Okay.
which is why I went there. Because babies and nursing and
Yeah.
bras and stuff, they're just like crazy. Yeah. So so then after like a year went by after a baby, I was like, oh, I liked that one bra. I'm gonna go try it again and see if I can get one now that fits, because you're like different again.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, well, I don't need Victoria's Secrets. I'll just go back to Kohl's.
Yes, but it's
Nobody
important.
follows me with bras there, except for my daughter.
For the tape measure.
Please stop touching my boobs. Come
Oh my
on, get
gosh.
away. Yeah, so they're a little crazy there.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
true.
The bras are cute though.
They are cute, and there's nothing wrong with trying to feel good
No.
and pretty
Yeah.
under your clothes or on top of your clothes, whatever. But it does help when we see people that look like us,
Yes. And I want
in
my
advertisements.
kids to see people that are normal looking, because it's hard when you're in that puberty stage and you're trying to feel good in your body and you just don't, because everything's changing. And then you look and there's all these women that aren't even they've been airbrushed.
Yeah, it's not even what they actually
Yeah.
look like.
They've been airbrushed. And you don't look like them. Well, because you don't airbrush yourself every day.
Right.
So I like what Dove is doing.
Yeah.
I say more power to you. And hasn't like Europe done that too? They actually have put a stipulation
They've got rules
on
about
how like what your BMI,
what
can
your
even be.
minimum BMI. Yes.
Yeah, but even that's skinny.
Yeah, it's still super
Yeah.
skinny. It's just not like.
Have you ever
Even
seen some of
stores.
those runway? Okay, now I'm bashing on skinny people. I'm sorry. Please,
It's a different kind of weight bias here. all of a
Sorry.
sudden.
But once I was watching this runway, right?
Mhm.
And have you seen those heels that they wear? They're like crazy.
Yeah.
I watched and I can't even get this picture out of my head because I really wanted to jump in the screen and be like, oh my God. She like twisted her ankle 6 times trying to get back from, And I just thought, oh my God, she's not going to walk again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they wear some crazy things in the runway for sure. And that's not even like what you even buy at the store.
No.
It's just like crazy
I
stuff.
don't even
for the sake of
understand
it.
the runway actually, because where do you purchase that stuff?
No.
And where would you wear it?
You don't. It's just for
Show.
It's just a show all by
Yeah.
itself, unrelated to the brand even.
Yeah, that's true.
nonsense.
It's like art on a person.
Yes.
Except it's not even very artistic because those heels are ridiculous.
Yeah. It's really not at all practical or.
I call those like
safe.
anything more than this on a heel. It's like a sitting shoe. That's all I used to do. Sit in it. Yeah. Did you know there's a fracture called a high heel fracture?
No, I believe it
Yeah.
though.
I actually have one of those.
Oh.
I don't even, whoever knows me knows I don't wear heels, right? Hardly ever. So how the heck did I get a high heel fracture? Pothole.
Oh, that's terrible.
Same thing as a high heel, I guess. So yeah,
Fascinating.
that whole took me out. Anyways, back to what we were talking about.
Well,
Her side's so sidetracked. I don't know how she deals with me. Anyways,
so I think our point is, and this sort of like ties together a lot of the things that we've talked about in a lot of our videos about, just taking the emphasis away from weight when it comes to health.
Right.
You just focus on doing healthy stuff to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And don't worry about what your weight is doing. You can let your doctor worry about that.
I don't even tell people to weigh themselves, to be honest with you, when or if they're like really obsessed with weight, I say pick a day. That's the only day you get to weigh yourself. And you need to weigh yourself the same every single time, like the same clothes or no clothes or whatever you're going to do. One day, that's it. But I always tell people, how do you feel in your clothes? Because who cares what the scale is doing? I mean, your body is gonna change. You build muscle, you lose fat, and all this stuff happens that's different. And so if your clothes are getting looser, but the scale is staying, kind of the same, then guess what? Your body is becoming more fit. So I just am like, what are your clothes doing?
Right.
Yeah.
And what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Yeah. And how do you feel? Are you feeling better? Are you feeling more like you can chase your kids or your grandkids?
Right. And you're exercising, you can feel the difference there, right?
Yes.
Can you do more than you used to be able to do, whether it's lifting weights or it's more cardio, or you're running around or you're going upstairs. Like those are things that you should be focused on in terms of improvements, not looking for a number on a scale.
Right. And throw out the diet. It's a lifestyle change, people. Lifestyle change. No diets.
No.
Diets fail.
They do.
Yeah. But lifestyle changes. They're good.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with trying to be more healthy.
No. All right. Are we having anything more to say? Okay. So we need to decide what we're doing next time.
Right. So these are our things that we've talking about.
Soda. Let's do soda. It's like my favorite thing. Soda. Let's do soda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll find any health benefits to soda?
No, I don't think so. But we could talk about soda over the lifespan just to make it interesting. Like, I don't know if there's a difference between like drinking soda as, say, a toddler versus drinking it as an old person.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. All right, people, that's what we're doing. Please be kind to everybody around you because we don't walk in their shoes, right?
Yes. And yourself.
And yourself. Yes. We need to not be so negative to ourselves. Everyone is your worst critic, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Love yourself. It's the only self you have. And it's the only thing you can control, right? Like the only person you can control is yourself. That's it. So love the self that you can control. And then come back and see us next week because we are going to talk about soda. Yay! And if you have any questions or concerns or anything, please don't hesitate to ask. And we hope we didn't offend anybody today. That was not our goal.
No, it's definitely not our goal.
No, because we are all about the respect, the critical awareness, and compassionate self-care. There you go.
Okay.
So have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Like